Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life Story 999, where we share inspirational tales that celebrate humanity, courage, and perseverance. Today, we bring you a moving story about a Marine standing at attention and an unexpected act of kindness from the president that touched millions. As you listen, think about this. What would you do in a moment where everything you worked for seemed to fall apart? Stick around to the end for an inspiring twist. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments or email us your own stories of hope and resilience. Now, let's dive in. David Reynolds grew up in the small town of Maple Grove, Nebraska. From a young age, he dreamed of serving his country, inspired by his father, a Vietnam War veteran, and his grandfather, a World War II hero. Stories of courage filled his childhood, shaping his aspirations. David would sit at his grandfather's feet, listening to tales of bravery, sacrifice, and the camaraderie of soldiers who stood by each other in the most challenging times. Those stories etched a sense of purpose deep into his heart, guiding him as he grew up. David excelled in school, not only in academics but also in sports and leadership activities. He joined the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, JROTC, in high school, where he found his passion for discipline, structure, and service. His instructors recognized his dedication, and he earned accolades for his leadership, determination, and commitment to excellence. By the time David turned 18, there was no doubt in his mind about his future. He enlisted in the Marines, ready to honor the legacy of his family's service. Boot camp was grueling, testing David physically and mentally in ways he had never experienced. The early mornings, long runs, and relentless drills pushed him to his limits. But David's determination was unwavering. He took each challenge as an opportunity to grow, emerging from boot camp stronger, more resilient, and with a newfound respect for the brotherhood of the Marines. His instructors noted his perseverance, and his fellow recruits looked up to him for his quiet strength and willingness to help others. David's early assignments took him to various parts of the world, each deployment adding to his experience and shaping him as a Marine. He faced difficult situations, but it was during a mission in a conflict zone that his courage truly shone. Under heavy fire, David's quick thinking and bravery saved the lives of several of his fellow Marines. His actions earned him a commendation for heroism, but David never saw himself as a hero. He believed he was simply doing his duty, protecting his brothers in arms and fulfilling the commitment he had made when he first put on the uniform. Despite the recognition, David remained humble. His focus was always on the mission and the team, never seeking the spotlight. His humility and dedication made him a respected figure among his peers, someone they could rely on in the most challenging times. His commanding officers knew they could trust David with critical tasks, and his fellow Marines knew he would always have their backs. It was this reputation that led to David receiving an extraordinary honor, a chance to stand guard for the President of the United States at an international summit. The assignment was a recognition of his exemplary service, a role reserved for only the most disciplined and trustworthy Marines. When David received the news, he felt a mix of pride and disbelief. It was the culmination of everything he had worked for, a moment that honored not just him but the legacy of his father and grandfather as well. Standing on the tarmac, dressed in his ceremonial uniform, David knew this was more than just an assignment. It was a tribute to his family's legacy of service, a testament to the sacrifices of those who came before him. But as he would soon discover, this prestigious assignment would test him in ways he never imagined, challenging not only his discipline but also his ability to remain composed under unexpected circumstances. The day was clear but windy as David stood at attention on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews. The president's motorcade approached, and David focused on maintaining perfect posture, as he had practiced countless times. The wind was relentless, tugging at his uniform, but David stood firm. As President Donald Trump approached, a sudden gust blew David's hat off his head, sending it rolling across the tarmac. Panic gripped him. Protocol demanded he remain still, but standing without his hat felt like a personal failure. To his shock, President Donald Trump noticed the incident, paused, and stepped away from his entourage. With a warm smile, he picked up the hat, walked over, and placed it back on David's head. The president patted his shoulder gently and said, "You're doing great, son. Keep it up." The gesture stunned David, But before he could fully process it, another gust of wind sent the hat flying again. Embarrassment washed over him as the president chased it down a second time, laughing as he retrieved it. This time, he handed it to an aide, who returned it to David with a nod of reassurance. The encounter, simple yet profound, was captured on video by a journalist nearby. By evening, it was shared across social media, going viral almost instantly. The next morning, David awoke to find his phone buzzing endlessly with notifications. Friends, family, and even fellow Marines had sent him messages, some teasing him about the hat, others praising him for his composure. He turned on the TV to find the moment replayed across news channels, with commentators discussing the president's unexpected kindness. David was initially overwhelmed by the attention. He had always prided himself on being a professional, someone who did his duty without needing recognition. But the video had struck a chord with people across the country. It was a rare glimpse of humanity from a figure often seen as distant, and it highlighted David's discipline and humility. Later that day, David received a call from his commanding officer. He was nervous, fearing that despite the public's positive reaction, there might be repercussions for the break in protocol. Instead, his commander congratulated him. "You handled yourself well, Reynolds." The president himself praised your professionalism. "Keep it up." Relief washed over David, and he thanked his commander, hanging up with a sense of pride. Over the following days, the video continued to spread, gaining millions of views. People commented on the president's humility and David's steadfastness. One comment in particular stood out to David. "This Marine represents everything good about our country: honor, discipline, and grace under pressure." Reading it, David felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had always wanted to serve his country with distinction, and in that moment, he knew he had. The attention brought opportunities David never expected. He was invited to speak at a veterans event, where he shared his experience and spoke about the importance of resilience and staying true to one's duty. Public speaking wasn't something David had ever imagined himself doing, but he accepted the invitation, seeing it as a way to inspire others. When the day of the event arrived, David stood nervously behind the curtain, waiting for his turn to speak. He had faced danger in conflict zones, but the thought of speaking to a large audience made his palms sweat. As he stepped onto the stage, the applause from the crowd reassured him. He took a deep breath and began to tell his story, not just about the incident with the president, but about his journey, his family's legacy, and the values that had guided him. The audience listened intently, and David could see nods of agreement and smiles of encouragement. He spoke about his grandfather's stories from World War II, his father's sacrifices during Vietnam, and the pride he felt in continuing their legacy. He shared the lessons he had learned in the Marines: discipline, courage, and humility. And he spoke about the moment on the tarmac, how a small act of kindness had reminded him that even the highest leaders were human. By the end of his speech, the room was filled with applause. Afterward, many approached him, sharing their own stories of service or how they had been touched by the video. David realized that his story had become bigger than himself. It had become a symbol of respect, unity, and the power of simple human connection. One of the most touching moments came when a young boy, no older than 12, approached David with his mother. The boy, eyes wide with admiration, said, "I want to be a Marine just like you one day." David knelt down, shook the boy's hand, and said, "If you work hard and never give up, you can do anything, kid." The boy's smile was all the reward David needed. As the days turned into weeks, David returned to his duties, but the experience stayed with him. He continued to receive letters and messages from people who had seen the video, each one reminding him of the impact that one moment could have. The president's simple act of picking up a hat had sparked a wave of positivity, and David was proud to have been a part of it. He knew that his role as a Marine was not about seeking recognition, but about serving with honor, no matter the circumstances. And in that windy moment on the tarmac, David had done just that, stood firm, faced the unexpected, and represented the values he held dear. The incident taught David an important lesson. Sometimes, the most meaningful moments are the ones we least expect. It wasn't the commendations or the medals that defined his career. It was the simple, human moments that reminded him why he had chosen this path. And as he looked ahead, David knew he would carry that lesson with him, wherever his service might take him next. The video of President Donald Trump chasing David's hat sparked a nationwide conversation. News outlets praised the president's humility and respect for the armed forces. Social media buzzed with comments, many applauding the president's humanity and others joking about the adventurous hat. David's parents were among the first to call him after seeing the footage. His father, a man of few words, said proudly, "You've done us proud, son." His mother, overwhelmed with emotion, shared the video with everyone she knew, saying, "That's my boy." For David, the incident was both humbling and uplifting. He had feared the worst, a reprimand or ridicule, but instead, he became a symbol of grace under pressure. Fellow Marines reached out with messages of support, and his commanding officers commended his composure. But the story didn't end there. Inspired by the viral moment, a veterans organization reached out to David to feature him in their campaign promoting respect for service members. This brought attention to the challenges faced by active duty personnel and their families, turning a small mishap into a meaningful movement. David found himself thrust into the spotlight, with invitations to speak at various events across the country. At first, the idea of public speaking terrified him, but he knew he couldn't turn down the opportunity to make a difference. He wanted to honor the men and women who served, just as he had, and share the values that had guided him throughout his life. His first speaking engagement was at a fundraiser for veteran services. The audience was filled with former service members, their families, and supporters. David took the stage with a mix of nerves and determination. As he spoke about the viral incident, he emphasized the importance of resilience, community, and the bonds that hold service members together. He shared stories from his own experiences, of the hardships of deployment, the sacrifices made by military families, and the pride of wearing the uniform. The response was overwhelming. The crowd rose to their feet in applause, and many approached him afterward, thanking him for sharing his story. One older veteran, his eyes misty with emotion, shook David's hand and said, "You reminded us what it means to serve with honor, son. Keep it up." Those words stayed with David, reinforcing his belief in the power of connection and shared experiences. As the campaign continued, David's story was featured in videos, articles, and social media posts, all aiming to highlight the sacrifices of service members and their families. He met countless veterans who shared their own stories of struggle and resilience, each one a testament to the strength of the human spirit. These encounters deepened David's appreciation for the community he was a part of, a community bound by courage, sacrifice, and unwavering support for one another. David's journey also led him to visit schools and speak to young students about the values of service, commitment, and integrity. He wanted to inspire the next generation, to show them that even in moments of uncertainty or failure, there was always an opportunity to rise above. He spoke about the importance of perseverance, of standing tall even when the wind knocked you down, just as it had knocked his hat off that day on the tarmac. One of the most memorable moments came when David visited a high school in his hometown of Maple Grove. Standing in front of the students, he saw himself in their eager faces, young people with dreams, unsure of the path ahead. He told them about his own journey, the challenges he faced, and how a simple act of kindness from a leader had reminded him of the values that truly mattered. The students listened intently, and by the end of his speech, many came forward to thank him, some even expressing their own aspirations to serve. The impact of the viral video extended beyond David's personal story. Donations to veterans organizations surged, and awareness of the challenges faced by military families grew. People who had never thought about the sacrifices of service members began to take notice, moved by the humility shown by both David and President Donald Trump. The moment on the tarmac had become a catalyst for change, sparking conversations about how the nation could better support those who served. David never imagined that a simple gust of wind could lead to such an outpouring of support and positivity. He remained humble throughout, always redirecting the attention to the broader community of service members and their families. He knew that his story was just one of many, and he felt a deep responsibility to use his newfound platform to uplift others. Months after the incident, David was invited to the White House for a special ceremony honoring service members who had made a positive impact in their communities. Standing in the Grand Hall, surrounded by fellow honorees, David felt a sense of pride that went beyond personal achievement. It was a pride rooted in his family's legacy, in the sacrifices of those who came before him, and in the hope that his story might inspire others to serve with honor and compassion. When President Donald Trump approached David during the ceremony, he smiled warmly and said, "You made quite an impression out there, Marine. Keep making us proud." David saluted, his heart swelling with gratitude. It was a moment he would carry with him forever, a reminder that even the smallest actions could resonate far beyond what anyone could imagine. As David returned to his duties, he knew that his life had been forever changed by that windy day on the tarmac. The experience had taught him that true leadership wasn't about power or prestige. It was about humility, kindness, and the ability to lift others up. And as he continued his journey, David was determined to live by those values, inspiring others to do the same. A week after the incident, David received a personal letter from President Donald Trump. In it, the president thanked him for his service and wrote, "Your professionalism under pressure reminded me why I'm proud to lead this country. You represent the best of us." David was invited to a ceremony at the White House, where he was honored alongside other exemplary service members. During the event, President Donald Trump shared the story of the hat, drawing laughter and applause. Turning to David, he said, "Sometimes, even presidents have to chase hats." The recognition opened new doors for David. He was offered a leadership role in a mentorship program for young recruits, where he could inspire the next generation of Marines. He embraced the opportunity, seeing it as a way to give back and continue his family's legacy of service. The viral video continued to resonate with people across the country, reminding them of the power of kindness and humility. It wasn't about politics. It was about humanity, something everyone could relate to. David's story became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in moments of imperfection, grace can prevail. David's new role in the mentorship program allowed him to connect with young recruits who were just beginning their journey. He shared his experiences, both the challenges and the triumphs, and encouraged them to stay true to their values, even when faced with adversity. Many of the recruits looked up to David, not just for his accolades, but for his genuine care and dedication to their growth. He made it his mission to be the kind of mentor his own father and grandfather had been for him, instilling in these young Marines the importance of integrity, discipline, and compassion. One day, while working with a particularly anxious recruit named Tyler, David saw a reflection of his younger self, eager, yet unsure. Tyler struggled with the rigorous demands of training, often doubting whether he was cut out for the Marines. David took Tyler under his wing, spending extra time with him, sharing stories of his own doubts and fears during boot camp. He reminded Tyler that every Marine had moments of uncertainty, but that perseverance and belief in oneself were what mattered most. Over time, Tyler began to transform. He grew more confident, his posture straightened, and his determination became evident in every task he undertook. During a training exercise, Tyler excelled, earning recognition from his superiors. Afterward, he approached David with tears in his eyes and said, "I wouldn't have made it without you, Sergeant Reynolds." David simply smiled and replied, "You had it in you all along, Tyler. I just helped you see it." Moments like these made David realize the true impact of his role. It wasn't about medals or ceremonies. It was about shaping the future, one Marine at a time. Beyond the mentorship program, David continued to receive invitations to speak at events. One particularly memorable occasion was a charity gala organized to support veterans and their families. The event was attended by influential figures, including business leaders, celebrities, and former service members. David was asked to be the keynote speaker, and though the prospect of addressing such a distinguished audience was daunting, he accepted the challenge. Standing on the stage, David looked out at the sea of faces, each one representing a different walk of life. He began by sharing the story of the windy day on the tarmac, but he quickly shifted focus to the broader message, the importance of empathy, humility, and service to others. He spoke of the sacrifices made by military families, the quiet strength of spouses and children who endured long deployments, and the camaraderie that bound service members together. David's words struck a chord with the audience. He spoke not as a hero, but as a man who had faced challenges, made mistakes, and learned the value of kindness. By the time he finished, the room was silent, the the weight of his message hanging in the air. Then, slowly, the applause began. A standing ovation that lasted several minutes. David felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that his story had touched hearts and perhaps inspired others to act with compassion in their own lives. After the gala, a well-known philanthropist approached David with an idea. She wanted to start a scholarship fund for the children of service members, and she asked if David would be willing to be the face of the campaign. Honored, David agreed, seeing it as another opportunity to make a difference. The scholarship fund was launched shortly after, providing educational opportunities for dozens of young people who might not have otherwise had the chance to pursue their dreams. As the months passed, David continued to balance his duties as a Marine with his growing responsibilities as a mentor and public figure. He often reflected on how a simple, windy day had changed the course of his life. It wasn't the kind of change that came with fame or fortune, but rather a deeper, more meaningful transformation, one that allowed him to impact the lives of others in a positive way. David's parents watched their son's journey with pride. His father, who had always been reserved with his emotions, began to open up more, sharing stories from his own time in the military that David had never heard before. His mother, ever his biggest supporter, continued to share every article, video, and mention of David's work with her friends and neighbors. To them, David wasn't just a Marine. He was a beacon of hope, a reminder that goodness could prevail even in the face of adversity. One evening, David received an unexpected phone call. It was from President Donald Trump's office, inviting him to a private dinner at the White House. The dinner was a small gathering, meant to honor individuals who had made a significant impact in their communities. Sitting at the table with the president and other distinguished guests, David felt a profound sense of gratitude. He was just a small-town boy from Nebraska, but through a combination of hard work, resilience, and the kindness of others, he had found himself here, at the heart of the nation's capital, being recognized for simply doing what he believed was right. As the dinner came to a close, President Donald Trump raised a toast. To those who serve with humility and heart, he said, looking directly at David, may their actions remind us all of what truly matters. The room echoed with the clinking of glasses, and David felt tears welling in his eyes. It was a beautiful ending to a journey that had started with a simple act of kindness, a reminder that even the smallest gestures could ripple out and touch countless lives. David returned to his duties the next day, but he carried with him the lessons of the past year. He knew that his story wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. There were still recruits to mentor, speeches to give, and lives to touch. And as he stood once more on the training grounds, watching the next generation of Marines push themselves to their limits, David felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. He was exactly where he was meant to be, serving, leading, and inspiring others to do the same. Thank you for joining us today on Life Story 999. David's experience shows us that even small gestures can have a profound impact, reminding us of the values of respect, humility, and service. What would you do in David's situation? Have you ever experienced a moment where kindness turned a difficult situation into something beautiful? We'd love to hear your stories in the comments or through email. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt tales. Together, let's celebrate the moments that remind us of the best in humanity. Until next time, take care and stay inspired.